So, if you've spent any time at all in the world of XRP, you've definitely heard the whispers, right? This massive stash of coins locked away that casts this huge shadow over the market. We're talking, of course, about Ripple's escrow. And today, we are going to separate the facts from the fear.
And let's be real, this is the question that probably keeps some people up at night. You see this number, tens of billions of XRP sitting in escrow, and you have to wonder, are we just waiting for some massive supply shock to hit and crash the whole market? It's a huge question, and it absolutely deserves a real, fact-based answer.
I mean, just look at that number for a second. 40 billion. That's more than the entire supply of a lot of other cryptocurrencies, all kind of sitting in one place. So you could totally see why this makes people nervous, and why understanding exactly how it works is so critical. Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we first have to understand the tool that's at the very center of it all. What exactly is this escrow, and more importantly, how does it actually function?
You know, in the simplest terms, you can think of an escrow like a digital safe that's on a time lock. You put the assets inside, and they can only come out when very specific rules are met. Usually those rules are all about time or maybe certain events happening.
But, and this is the key difference, we're not talking about some traditional bank holding the keys. The entire system is built right into the XRP ledger's code. It's all enforced by cryptography, which means it's automated, it's impartial, and it's completely independent of any one person or company's control. So, how does this automated safe actually release all that XRP? Well, it's not random at all. It's a super predictable, really structured monthly cycle. And honestly, that's the key to understanding its real impact on the market. The whole thing is actually a pretty simple three-step cycle every single month. First, on the first day of the month, boom, 1 billion XRP gets unlocked. Second, Ripple can then use some of that to, say, invest in the ecosystem or sell to partners. And third, and this is the really crucial part, whatever doesn't get used by the end of the month gets put right back into a brand new escrow contract at the very back of the line. It's this revolving, predictable system.
And here's the best part, what makes this whole system so trustworthy, you don't have to take anyone's word for it. Seriously, because it all happens on a public ledger. Every single one of those transactions can be checked out by anyone, anytime. It is transparency by design.
Okay, so now that we get the mechanics, let's connect it all back to that original fear. How does this predictable, super transparent system actually deal with the concern of a market-crashing supply shock?
This right here is the perfect way to see the difference. The fear is a supply shock, right? It's like a giant dam bursting and just flooding the entire market with no warning. But the reality? It's a programmatic release. Think of it like a slow, steady, predictable, dripping tap. The market knows exactly when the drip is coming and pretty much how big it's going to be. There are no surprises. So let's just boil it down to the core features here. What you've got is a predictable monthly schedule, complete transparency because it's all on ledger, and a structure that's designed from the ground up for long-term stability. Its whole purpose is to prevent the very thing people are afraid of, flooding the market. All right, with all of this laid out, I think we can finally come to a really clear conclusion and give a straight answer to that initial question.
So let's just answer it once and for all. Is a supply shock coming from the escrow? The answer is a pretty definitive no. The fear of a sudden market flood just isn't based in reality because the entire mechanism was meticulously designed to do the exact opposite, to make sure there's a predictable, steady supply for decades to come.
And that really says it all, doesn't it? The whole point isn't to jolt the market, it's to provide certainty. I mean, think about it. For anyone building on or investing in an ecosystem, this kind of programmatic approach just removes a massive variable from the equation. It allows people to plan for the long term with a clear mathematical picture of future supply. That level of clarity is just incredibly rare in this space. And that leaves us with one last, kind of fascinating question to think about. In a market that's so often defined by its crazy volatility, what's the long-term value of an asset that has a cryptographically guaranteed, completely transparent, and totally predictable supply? Now that's a question worth chewing on. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.